I still hear the screams at night. The memory of being dragged into the dark forest by those witches haunts me. Let me tell you what happened. My name is Ode. I live in a small village in Nigeria. My older brother, Tunde, and I were very close, or so I thought. Tunde was always jealous of me, but I never noticed. He wanted everything I had. Our parents loved us both, but Tunde always wanted more. One day, Tunde came to me with an idea. He said there was a hidden treasure deep in the forest, and we could find it together. I trusted him, so I agreed to go with him. We walked for hours until we reached the clearing. Suddenly, 3 old women appeared. They looked strange, with long nails and crooked smiles. My heart pounded as they approached us. Tunde stepped back, and I realized too late that this was a trap. The women grabbed me, their grip cold and strong. I screamed for help, but Tunde just stood there, watching. He had sold me to these witches. They dragged me deeper into the forest. I tried to fight, but they were too strong. They tied me to a tree and started chanting in a language I didn't understand. The night grew darker, and the air turned cold. My body trembled with fear. The witches circled around me, their eyes glowing in the dark. I thought I was going to die. The witches kept chanting, their voices growing louder and more intense. I could feel my strength fading. My mind raced with thoughts of escape, but there was no way out. Suddenly, one of the witches stopped and looked at me closely. She smiled, revealing sharp teeth. "You will serve us well," she said. I felt a chill run down my spine. I knew I was in deep trouble, but I had no idea what they planned to do to me. The night seemed endless. The witches continued their ritual, and I felt myself growing weaker. My brother's betrayal cut deeper than any knife. I couldn't understand why he had done this to me. The forest was silent except for the witches' chants and my own labored breathing. Then, just as I was about to lose hope, something changed. The chanting stopped, and the witches stepped back. They whispered among themselves, glancing at me with hungry eyes. I had a feeling that my ordeal was far from over. I needed to find a way to escape, but I was bound tight, and the witches were always watching. Every movement I made seemed to draw their attention. My heart raced as I realized that my survival depended on outsmarting these creatures. I had to find a way to break free and get back to my village before it was too late. But the night was still young, and the witches had many plans for me. My brother's betrayal was just the beginning of a nightmare that was far from over. As the witches whispered, I strained to hear their words, hoping to find a clue to their plans. Their voices were low, almost hissing, but I caught a few phrases: sacrifice, power, and spirit. I felt a surge of panic. They wanted to sacrifice me for some dark ritual. I had to escape, but my hands and feet were tied too tightly. I took a deep breath, trying to calm my racing heart. There had to be a way out. One of the witches came closer, holding a small, sharp knife. She grinned, showing her jagged teeth. "Don't worry, little one," she said. "It will be over soon." Her words sent a shiver down my spine. I glanced around, searching for anything that could help me. The forest was dense, but there were sharp rocks scattered on the ground. If I could just reach one, maybe I could cut the ropes. But the witches were too close, watching my every move. Desperation fueled my determination. I had to distract them somehow. "Why are you doing this?" I asked, my voice shaking. "What do you want from me?" The witch with the knife paused, tilting her head. "We need your spirit," she said. "It's pure and strong. With it, we will gain immense power." Her words filled me with dread, but also a glimmer of hope. If they needed my spirit, they wouldn't kill me right away. I had a little more time. I just needed a plan. The witches started another chant, their eyes glowing brighter. I knew this was my only chance. I began to struggle against the ropes, slowly loosening them. The witches were so focused on their ritual that they didn't notice. I managed to free one hand and grabbed a sharp rock. With quick, frantic movements, I cut through the remaining ropes. My heart pounded in my chest as I prepared to make a run for it. Just as the witches turned their attention back to me, I broke free and bolted into the forest. Their angry screams echoed behind me, but I didn't look back. I ran as fast as I could, branches scratching my face and arms. The forest seemed endless, but I kept going, fueled by fear and adrenaline. I stumbled over roots and rocks, my breath coming in ragged gasps. I could hear the witches chasing me, their footsteps getting closer. I saw a faint light through the trees and headed toward it. It was a small clearing with an old, abandoned hut. I didn't have time to think. I rushed inside and slammed the door behind me, burying it with a heavy piece of wood. The hut was dark and musty, but it felt like a sanctuary. I pressed my ear to the door, listening. The witches were outside, their voices angry and frustrated. "We will find you," one of them hissed. "You can't hide forever." I knew they were right. The hut was a temporary refuge, but it wouldn't keep them out for long. I had to think of something else. My mind raced, trying to come up with a plan. Then, I remembered a story my grandmother used to tell me. She said there was a powerful spirit in the forest who protected those in need. If I could find this spirit, maybe I could be saved. But finding the spirit meant leaving the hut and facing the witches again. I took a deep breath, gathering my courage. I had no other choice. I waited until the witches' voices faded, then quietly slipped out the back of the hut. The forest was silent, the darkness pressing in on me. I moved carefully, trying to avoid making any noise. The path was unclear, but I trusted my instincts, hoping they would lead me to the spirit. After what felt like hours, I reached another clearing. In the center stood a large, ancient tree, its branches spreading wide like protective arms. I approached it, feeling a strange sense of calm. "Please," I whispered. "If there is a spirit here, I need your help. I'm in danger." The air around me seemed to shimmer, and a soft, glowing light appeared in front of the tree. A figure emerged from the light, radiating warmth and kindness. "I am the spirit of the forest," it said. "I will help you." Relief washed over me, but I knew the danger wasn't over. The witches were still out there, and my brother's betrayal weighed heavily on my heart. The spirit extended a hand, and I felt a surge of strength and hope. With the spirit's help, I might just survive this nightmare. The spirit's presence filled me with a calm I hadn't felt since this nightmare began. "Thank you," I whispered, feeling tears prick my eyes. "The witches, they're after me. My own brother sold me to them." The spirit's eyes, ancient and wise, softened with understanding. "Fear not, Ode. The forest will protect you. But you must be brave and trust in its power." I nodded, wiping my tears. The spirit touched my forehead, and a warm sensation spread through my body. "This will shield you from their magic for a while. Use this time to find a way out of the forest." As the spirit's light faded, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. I had to get back to the village and expose Ton's betrayal. I thanked the spirit and started making my way through the forest, this time with more confidence. The forest was still eerie, but I no longer felt alone. I could feel the spirit's protection around me, like an invisible shield. I moved quickly, knowing the witches wouldn't give up easily. Hours passed, and the sky began to lighten. Dawn was breaking. I stumbled upon a narrow path that looked familiar. It was the way back to my village. Relief washed over me, but I knew I wasn't safe yet. As I hurried along the path, I heard voices behind me. The witches were close. My heart raced, and I pushed myself to run faster. The village was just ahead. I could see the outlines of the huts and the faint smoke from the morning fires. I burst into the village, shouting for help. The villagers, startled by my sudden appearance, gathered around. My parents rushed to me, their faces filled with worry and confusion. "Ade, what happened?" my mother asked, holding me close. "Tunde," I gasped, "he sold me to witches. They tried to sacrifice me." The villagers murmured in shock. My father turned to Tunde, who stood at the edge of the crowd, his face pale. Is this true, Tunde? He demanded. Tunde stammered, I didn't mean for it to go this far. I wanted. Before he could finish, the witches appeared at the edge of the village, their eyes glowing with anger. The villagers screamed and backed away. The witches pointed at me, and I felt the protective barrier from the spirit pose around me. One of the witches stepped forward. You can't hide from us, boy. We need your spirit. I stood my ground, fear and determination battling within me. Leave this village, I said, my voice stronger than I felt. The spirit of the forest protects me. You can't harm me. The witches hissed, but they hesitated. The villagers, emboldened by my words, began to chant, calling on the spirit of the forest for protection. The air around us shimmered again, and the witches screamed in frustration. You have won this time, the lead witch snarled. But we will be back. With that, the witches vanished into the forest. The villagers cheered, and my parents hugged me tightly. Tunde stood apart, shame and regret written on his face. I'm sorry, Ode, he whispered, tears streaming down his cheeks. I never wanted this to happen. I looked at him, my heart heavy with a mix of anger and pity. You betrayed me, Tunde. But you are still my brother. We will face the consequences together. The village elder stepped forward. This matter must be resolved. Tunde, you have brought great danger upon us. You must make amends. Tunde nodded, his head bowed. I will do whatever it takes to make things right. As the sun rose higher, casting a warm glow over the village, I felt a sense of hope. The road ahead would be difficult, but with the support of my family and the spirit of the forest, I knew we could overcome the darkness. The ordeal had changed me, but it also strengthened my resolve. I would protect my village and never forget the lesson I had learned about trust and betrayal. The memory of the witches' screams would stay with me, a reminder of the dangers that lurk in the shadows, but also of the courage and unity that can drive them away.